Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Crafted for Action. This is an amazing, amazing conference. Big shout out to Jen Price and Janelle, excuse me, for getting this all set up. This is so amazing. So how are y'all doing? Are y'all drinking a beer yet? It's after 5:00.
Yeah.
Of
I just have water.
Nice. So I would love to have everybody go ahead and introduce themselves. My name's Caroline. I'm with Bitch Beer Podcast, and I'm super grateful to be moderating this panel and so honored to be here with all these other women. This is so incredible. So Jen, would you like to start us off, introduce yourself, and tell us what you do in the beer industry?
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely echo this Crafted for Action conference is absolutely amazing. Everything I've seen so far has been wonderful. I'm so excited to see this continue to build year after year. And I'm definitely excited to be here with all of you today. I've actually honestly been really kind of nervous about it because I get to hang out with all of you right now for this panel. And that's very cool to be included on here. So I'm Jen Blair. I frequently say that I am all beer all the time, in and out of work. My full-time job, I'm the beer program manager with New Realm Brewing in Atlanta. I co-host a beer and brewing podcast called False Bottom Girls, and I do just a whole host of other beer-related things in the professional and the homebrew arenas, most of it aimed at increasing the amount of women, the amount of people of color, all the underrepresented groups, breaking down the barriers that we can to get more people in the industry.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, let's just do quick intros, talk about who you are, what you do in the beer industry, and we'll get into more deeper topics going forward. And then Julie, go ahead, take the floor.
Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here. I was lucky enough to discover Jen actually on Clubhouse, and that's where we got connected with Craft Women Connect. So I'm Julie Rhodes. I'm located in Broomfield, Colorado. It's right outside. I'm actually right smack in between Denver and Boulder. And I'm basically a brewery business consultant. So I work with growing, small to medium-sized breweries and cider companies and seltzeries as well, but working on helping them increase sales, improve their digital marketing tactics, and manage their distributors, which is super fun these days. So I've been solo for about almost 3 years now. Before that, I have an extensive history on the corporate side of supplier side sales. So I've been in the beer space for about 13 years. And then I was service industry before that for about 15 years. So I've been in the space a while. Super excited to talk about this, and anytime we can help lift up diverse groups in being more inclusive in the beer space, just in general, is just a passion of mine. So thanks for having me.
That's amazing. I'm sure we could do a whole episode just on everybody's history in here. This is incredible. Just it's very impressive to see it. And then Hannah, go ahead, take the floor. Talk to us about yourself and what you do in the beer industry.
Hey everybody, I'm Hannah Ferguson. I am located in Youngstown, Ohio. So it's about, if anybody needs any directions, about an hour away from Cleveland. I am actually right now I'm in Atlanta, so I came down here because I wanted to, be a part of this conference too, in person. But I was an assistant brewer for a local brewery in my area in Youngstown. So that's how everyone knows me, as an assistant brewer. But I've also been for the past 10 years, I've been a home cider and winemaker. So I am actually opening up my own cider house this fall, and hopefully September, October, fingers crossed, everything goes right. I will be opening up a cidery and winery here in Youngstown, Ohio, in my state. And there's a lot of people just know me as I was the first Black female brewer in the state of Ohio professionally. And again, I will be one of the first to open up my own cider and winery in the state of Ohio as well. So
congratulations. That's so impressive. Wow. That's so
you.
awesome. Congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And then, is it Elisa or Alyssa?
It's Elisa. Yep.
Elisa.
You got it.
Awesome. All right, Elisa, talk to us about who you are and what you do in the beer industry.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to say it is so amazing just to be here and surrounded by such female power and greatness. And so I'm ecstatic. And thank you, Jen, for giving us this platform to literally, share our stories. My name is Elisa Bowens Mercado. I'm the owner and brewmaster at Rhythm Brewing Company, aka Lady Lager. We are Connecticut's first African American female owned beer brand in the state's history. And with that said, we are changing the face, the game, the taste of craft beer, one sip, one pint, one girl power at a time. And so to jump on these platforms and these webinars just to really kind of dive into what we experience as women in the industry is just incredible. We specialize in lagers, and of course, I'm in New England, and it's very IPA heavy. So we're making some lagers and making some way into the craft beer industry, and I'm just very, very, very excited to be here with all of you today and to be a part of this amazing week of just pure education for everyone in the beer industry, the craft beer industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Elisa. Oh my gosh, I love lagers. I absolutely, they're like just my all-time favorite. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good put everything in it kind of stout and everything. I don't discriminate beers, but lagers is definitely one of my favorites.
It's a little sweet spot, yes.
That's amazing. And I mean, round of applause for all of our amazing women here. We just make being a woman in beer look so easy, don't we? Obviously, we know it is not easy, and we know it has not been an easy journey. So talk to us. Jen, how about you start us off with this first question? So what has your experience been like as a woman in the beer industry?
I will say I don't think I particularly have a unique experience for most women who have been in the beer industry or any male-dominated field. They, what it's like. And I promise I'm not being obtuse when I say this, but that sort of question is one that, a few years ago, I finally decided I'm not answering questions like this anymore. I'm answering it here tonight because, that's part of changing the face is making people aware of what that experience is like. But, oftentimes I find that to be very reductive. And when people have asked me that, it's almost like they feel like they need to, or that's the one thing that I can talk about. And as we've all just heard here, we have so much more to talk about. So, my experience has been really being able to find my voice and, and speak up for myself and ask for things that to me, it seems like other people in the industry just kind of get these opportunities handed to them, and, doing the thing where you ask for something that to you is a huge thing, where you ask for it and you're like, thank you for listening to that. And, the person's just like, yeah, whatever you would like, that's fine. So learning to ask anyway, without anticipating the answer, has been a big part of my journey as a woman in the beer industry.
Great. And yes, great point, Jen. That was actually a question that I stopped asking on my podcast because, I speak to women in the beer industry, but I found that it was just kind of irrelevant being a woman in beer, just asking specifically about it, because it's really about all of our joint experiences. It is becoming more diverse, but because the name of this panel is Change the Face, Change the Game, Actionable Steps for Including Women in Beer, I thought it was appropriate. So, so Julie, you're up next. Talk to us about your experience so far.
It's, I share some of the same viewpoints as Jen. I used to be, if you'd asked me this 5 years ago, I would have been get rid of the bro culture, and it's about having tough skin, and you just have to get used to things, and that's how it is, right, in our space. And then I became a mom, right, and then things changed. And I kind of tend to talk about it more from like I'm a female, like reproductive status, right? Like I can be a mom, right? And having the dynamic of like being a parent and having to deal with like pregnancy and, not to like go off the deep end here, but if we're going to talk real about this stuff, like here it is. It's, being in that space because I was on, not the production side, but the sales side. So I was dealing with like customers and under the pressure of having my income be affected by my gender was a very scary thing. So, in that sense, I can speak to the fact that that's something that needs to change immediately is not being, penalized, so to speak, in any way, shape, or form, mental health wise or financially for something that I choose to do as a female that has the ability to have children and, making it so that, I that it's okay to rock the boat, I guess you could say. Like if something is, I don't know, I'm going to throw out the first cuss word here. If something's shitty, you need to say something. You know what I mean? It's about time that like people get used to the fact that, if you're uncomfortable and you're being misogynist, you should be called out for it. I'm not huge on cancel culture. I don't like going there, but I do think that there can be more done in our space to become an ally, not only for females, not only for moms, not only for people that identify as female, but also BIPOC members of our community, the AAPI community, the trans community, the LGBTQ community. There needs to be something done to make sure that we can start having brave conversations that are acceptable in our space so that we can make a difference. Because somewhere along the line, beer got very white and very male and very beardy.
I was about to say beardy.
And that's kind of what happened. But if you dig into the history and you look at look at all the cultures that are contributing to our recipes and our flavors and our styles and our aromas, and think of where the ingredients come and how can we patchwork that in to our company culture and our industry culture. When I guess what I'm trying to say is it'll be nice when our industry is as reflective as the things that we're making. So, yeah.
So many amazing points that you just brought up, Julie, and I'd like to go, circle back on a couple of them. First off, yes, I agree with you. Cancel culture has become a lot, and I'm not a huge fan of it either. Sometimes it's deserved, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's okay to just make men feel a little bit stupid sometimes, by calling them out on the stupid shit that they say. And they do say stupid shit sometimes. But so kind of circling back. So thank you so much for sharing with us your experience of being pregnant and also having to worry about something like your income being changed. And just that livelihood and the stress. First off, the stress of creating life inside of your body and carrying life. Are there any other mothers in this group? I'm not raising my hand, but I
the
would.
Only one?
Oh my gosh! Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
So, but I think that's such an amazing point that you brought up. So, what were some challenges with that when you brought this to the attention at your place of employment? Do you mind going into that?
No, I don't mind. This is kind of part of my journey that I've taken, honestly, over the past few years, is just being comfortable with talking about this because it's something that, our industry is not immune to this, right? So first of all, there's no paid maternity leave. I had to take disability. I had to use all of my vacation pay, all of my sick pay, everything, because there's no system set up for parents. Regardless, male or female, honestly, it's parental leave in general, including adoption and in any form that it takes, right? FMLA, yeah, super awesome. You're not going to fire me because I take maternity leave, but guess what? I'm not making shit while you're waiting for me to come back. Yeah. So I hate to say it, but thanks for the, gold star. Like, we can't wait to come, have you come back, but who's, putting a roof over my head and feeding my family while that happens, right? So that's a major thing that needs to happen, honestly, across the board in every industry that I would love to see. So that's the first challenge. The second was, my boobs got bigger. I had a giant stomach. I was out there selling beer. You know what I mean? Lewd comments about nursing, lewd comments about like what kind of birth I was going to have. Like it it's gross. It's gross. It's gross and it's inappropriate. So like that kind of stuff was just deemed as they're not going to say anything. She's not going to say anything, right? Like she needs my business, right? She needs to make the sale, right? So she's not, she's not going to speak up. And to be honest with you, that was mirrored in my time in the service industry as well. It's like I'm working for tips, right? So I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm not going to push back on somebody that makes a comment. And that goes for coworkers as well, not just customers. So I think that it's a big challenge that we have to deal with, but I'm also a firm believer in like, it's the small things that make a big difference, right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lobbyist. I can't, make big things happen, but what we can do is talk in groups like this and have awkward, brave conversations like this and make the small waves to make the bigger changes. So, it's, it just ranged from everything, animosity from my managers and my bosses about like how long I'm actually going to be gone. Like, how long is that going to take you to recover? Like, oh, sorry, I created life, like it's, so I laugh about it now because it is a process of like mental health and dealing with that and learning how to take care of it and recognizing the challenges that I face. But I think that our industry has a lot of work to do with sensitivity levels. And having respect for anybody who might be different, and taking into account a little bit more empathy, what it's like to be in their shoes, and then driving together to speak up together about things that are unacceptable and working towards things that actually make a big change for people in their lives.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your experience. I'm so sorry that you had to face things like that. I mean, my mouth was consistently open the entire time you were speaking because I can't believe, but when you think about it, like working a sales job, like you just said, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to lose an account, but really like, what do you do in those instances? So I appreciate you sharing your story with us and for sharing it with everybody. So that way we can really take steps to make it easier for women to want to enter into this industry because it isn't, let's see, D.W. Armstrong says, but yet and still some of these people remain in the business and in positions of power, making decisions and bringing success to breweries. That is a very good point. And so it's, what do we do in these instances? Who do we go to? Because when you're at an account and one of your clients makes a comment to you or touches your belly or makes a weird comment about your pregnancy, do you go to their HR? Do you go to your HR? How is that handled? So I think that's a really good conversation for us to open up right now and to think about and talk about. And to continue on with, so Hannah, talk to us about what has been your experience in the industry as a female and also as a female of color in the industry.
Well, to me, I guess it's like it's been good. I'm not going to say it has been bad. And I think with me, it's more of like with my experience in the industry, it's more has been an element of surprise. When people kind of like, they talk to you, they meet you and they're like, or if you're at a beer fest or you're something, and they're like, hey, what do you do? And then when I say, hey, I'm the assistant brewer, it's like people are almost taken aback by it. And then sometimes I think about it like, are you taken aback by I'm a woman? Or are you taken aback because I'm Black? Like, I'm not sure exactly what their surprise is. But, I don't ask them, but then they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So that's what you do. That's so cool. And, then it kind of, but it's like, I think a lot of people may have expected me to say like, hey, I work the bar or I do this or I'm a server, but they don't expect me to come out and say brewer. And then I also get that from, my own personal community too. But I think too, a lot of people, they know me, they know my background, they know what I've done. They know I went from like working in higher education, I have my master's degree in business, things like that. And then there's like, oh, you brew beer now. And then so it catches people from surprise. But again, too, also it's like things like I've been working on like in our communities in the Black community is trying to make craft beer diverse. So again, people they don't necessarily think of craft beer when you say, "Hey, I brew beer." They think of like the normal, like the Bud Light, Miller Lights, Coors Lights, things like that, still reserved. So and then to me, so now it's becoming more of an educational piece when I'm talking to people and the people that look like me and like people in my community. And then the first thing they say, like, "Yo, that's dope. Like, that's amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. We're proud of you." So my experience, again, it catches people off guard at first. And then it's just like, yo, like, that's amazing. Keep doing it. Like, we're here to support you. And then a lot of people are like, I was like, I don't have my own brewery. And people are like, yo, I just want to drink your beer. I just want to drink Hannah beer. And I'm just like, I was like, well, this is where you get it. I was like, it's not necessarily my beer, but yeah, I was like, I love that. But it's just like, I just think people, especially in Youngstown, they're seeing me, they're seeing the publicity and different things like that. They're wanting to try. So now more people who probably would have turned their face at beer or like again, like me initially in the beginning, before I started drinking beer, I didn't like beer. So people are willing to give it a try. And then I love to hear when they say, like, "Hey, I want to try this beer because I know that you brew it, or I know that you're in this industry." So so I think that's something that's cool too. So I haven't necessarily, again, like I said, I haven't had a negative experience, but I know I catch people off guard every time I tell them what my job is or what my career is or what I do, basically what I do for a living. So
That's amazing, Hannah. No, we've got so many people in the comments being like, Hannah's the shit. That's
thank
so
you.
cool. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. And it is so cool that you can, it's kind of like catching people off guard in an awesome way, in the best way
Yeah.
possible, because then you're changing their opinion of what beer should be and about
Yeah.
what they know of as beer. And now it will forever be different, which is exactly what we want. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that side of it. And then Elisa, same question to you.
Oh, absolutely. And I always said from the inception of, the company and going into the industry, I don't want, I want my race and my gender to empower and inspire. I don't want it to define me, because once you try to start defining something that's gonna expand and create employment opportunities, once you're defined by that one thing, um it caps you, and I never wanted that. So I was constantly dealing with, this is great, yes, we are representing, because sometimes if you don't see someone that looks like you in an industry, and it doesn't matter what industry it's in, then sometimes you don't believe that you can go into that industry. So I think we as women, and then Anna and I as women of color, we have that obligation to get out there and show people, yes, might be a white male dominated industry, but we are here to really educate you on how creative women are, how we create recipes, how we can go into the brewing concepts and brand ownership, and how we can take really an industry and really embrace and empower people within it. So I never wanted to be defined by who I was. But it's amazing that when you're out there and you're the first of the first, that really shares your story, because there's stories behind all of us on this panel. And when you represent a gender or a demographic, people cheer for you. They're rooting for you. They're like, why can't you be the Black Budweiser? And I'm like, that's right. Why can't we be the Black Budweiser? Because we're making just as good as lagers out there, and better lagers than these big brands. So I always say, when you have that experience, and when you have the opportunity to have people build off of what you're building or what you're going through in these industries, it's an amazing thing. And we're contract brewing, so I'm dealing with head brewers. I'm brewing, of course, going in and brewing my beer myself, but then we're on sales, we're doing distro. So the issues that I have to deal with when I walk into a liquor store, and they're looking at me because they're like, well, why are you asking for the beer manager? because I own a beer brand. Okay. And then it takes about 5 to 10 minutes where I could have been, selling my beer. I have to explain now why, there's women and people of color in this industry. But you know what? Sometimes, I don't get mad about it. I used to, but I use that as an opportunity to educate ignorance in the industry. And if you can educate ignorance in an industry, then I think that's when you are onto something. So I use those as, before I'd be like, I'm out. I'm like, nobody ain't got time for all this. But but now it really is, and we have seen our accounts grow, and we have seen the industry collectively grow, and it's just from changing your mindset. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Elisa. You've brought up so many great points. And then Aaliyah, who was just in the chat, said representation is so freaking important. And it's so true. Representation is important because it's just, otherwise you have this image of what beer or what any industry should be. So being able to have people in those positions of not just sales reps, not just, people behind the bar, but having people in positions of powers as owners, brewers, it's very important. So that way we can see the possibilities, and also having people in the room for things like something. There was a place that I worked in the industry a while ago, and I had to ask one of the owners, be like, hey, can you guys put tampons in the bathrooms? And they're like, why? And I'm like, because you have women that work here. And they're like, well, don't you bring your own? And I'm like, sometimes we don't have one. And it's like trying to explain to these stupid dudes sometimes. I'm not to hate on guys, because I love our guys, but some of them, they're just like, well, what, they don't understand what toxic shock syndrome or any of these things are. Mm-hmm. So it's just having someone in a position, and just having someone in a position of power who is not like everybody else, to not just shake things up, but just to change the face of the industry. And then I'll open up the floor for really anyone to respond here for these next couple of questions. So what are some stereotypes that you have had to overcome, or that you've witnessed in the industry in general?
I can go first. We're all very polite. This is what happens.
I'm happy to call on everybody too, but I just I didn't want to make everybody feel like they had to respond to every question.
Right. The overwhelmingly, it's the men are afforded this assumption of skill and experience that women aren't, and overwhelmingly it's being talked down to, or I'm sure you already know this, but for me, and that occurs in all of the realms that I do beer things in, which is a lot. And I'm an advanced Cicerone. I'm a national beer judge. There's very few people in the world with my qualifications like that, and that's not something I don't just throw that around to people. But even after being knowing, yeah, thank you, yeah, knowing that. That I do have this experience. First of all, I have to fight to get people to understand that I already have that experience. But then it's just it's kind of like, okay, cool, but you probably don't know the difference between an ale and a lager, and that sort of thing just wears you down after a while. And that has been for me, the biggest stereotype, that I don't know. Or if I'm with my husband, everybody asks him questions, or answers questions that I ask by telling him what the answer is. So that presumption of, I see a woman in front of me, you don't know as much about beer as I do, when I probably know more, has been the biggest challenge.
That's a great point to bring up. Thank you, Jen. Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, kind of the stereotype I see, and I would say more as a consumer of craft beer, is that, and then when I started working in it, is that the craft beer industry, I feel they don't know how to approach Black people or people of color in this industry. It's almost scary, because I was like, we see how other industries, they do it. the wine industry, the liquor industry. They'll grab a rapper, they'll grab someone in like a celebrity, and boom, the sales are gone, like out the roof. But with craft beer, it seems like we're more hesitant to do that. Like, or they're scared. Even with the brewery I was working at, like it almost seems as though it's like you don't want to make it seem like you're intentionally trying to get Black people, but yet in a sense you almost have to do that, because how else are you going to do it? And I just feel like organizations like the Fresh Fest, Beer Fest, that was an eye opener to a lot of people, because that was one of the first Black beer fests in the United States, like ever. To see all, like, I've never been to a beer fest where I couldn't count the amount of people on two hands that look like me. So when I'm there and I'm not the minority and it felt different and it looked different, that was a change. And then like you have things like here, the Crafted Women's Organization here in Atlanta. I see them on Instagram and I'm like, yo, I need to be a part of that. And I'm in Ohio. So, and that's one of the huge reasons I wanted to come down here, to support that. And then you have things like Black and Brew Chicago, who she started an amazing thing. Mickey Bryan started an amazing thing in Chicago, where I wanted to jump on board, and we were able to start a branch in Youngstown for Black and Brew Youngstown. We have a Black and Brew Cleveland. There's a Black and Brew Delaware that's opening up. So these things are spreading out, but I just think that's just like the stereotype. A lot of people think that Black people don't like beer, or we only drink the cheap beer, but then they don't know how to approach us. And then sometimes, again, like certain things that are done in the craft beer space is not always welcoming. It could be down to like, hey, the music that you play, the guests, like, open mic nights, or the different things that you bring in, or like even trivia. I was like, my friends always ask me, you want to come to trivia? You want to do trivia? And I don't do trivia because I don't know anything that you're talking about. None of the topics, like, I can't, I can't grasp that. So I just think like sometimes like it's that stereotype, and then it's not like they don't want to be welcoming. I just also think they're afraid to make it seem like they're being intentional about it. And I feel like if you make that effort, we're there. We're going to support. We love good beer just as the next person who doesn't look like me. We love the drink. We love to, to socialize and to have fun in the same atmosphere that you do. So I also just think that's a stereotype. It's just like we're not hard to approach. It's like, it's just like, yes, we're willing to, to buy beer. And it's just like, maybe it's some things that just need to be tweaked in your brewery, that or maybe just team up with like a local organization that would, bring more people out, so we can know that like, hey, this place is dope, this place is cool, let's frequent this more often. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. You brought up so many amazing points. Oh my gosh, when you said trivia, I was like, I love trivia, but then I was like, oh my gosh, trivia is like, every time I've done trivia, it's a room full of white people. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's such a good point. Something as simple as like asking different questions.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such an amazing point. And really, Sarah, that was in the chat, she made a really good point. Treating us like we're visitors in the industry, like we're guests in the industry, versus like we're actually like included in the industry. So that's a very good statement to make, and a good point, because we're here, we're enjoying, we're drinking just like everybody else. So treating women like we're included in the club instead of just like here for a visit. And there's a great question in the chat from Amina. What do you all think of hypersexuality and craft beer, specifically on craft beer IG accounts? Is it counterproductive, or does it empower women to be themselves? Ooh, it's a great question.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit us with a hard question.
Yeah. No, hey, as a person who likes to show her cleavage on the internet with a beer, I'm right there. I'm on both sides of the fence. So
Yeah.
I love this question. It's great.
I'm like gearing myself up here. I hope I'm not speaking over anybody else, but I know Amina. Hi, Coffee. She and I actually know each other from way back, and I couldn't say hi to her in the comments. But hello. This is hard. This is hard, right? Because this gets deep into your body is not for everybody else. You know what I mean? And I would hope that anybody that shows any parts of themselves on social media is 100 and 200% confident with saying, this is public. I'm going to put this out in the public. It's here. There's going to be some creepos, but I think this is bigger. It's a bigger dynamic of just saying, like, is this right or wrong? Right. Yeah. Like, because that's your body, right? That is empowering.
Right.
Like, if that's what makes you feel good and strong and confident, do it. If that's what you want, do it. That is 100% your choice, right? The entitlement thing is an issue. Not everybody in the interweb is entitled to make commentary about your body. It's not there for their playground. Like, that's not, and I hate to say that it goes much deeper than that, but it kind of does. There are going to be people that respect the fact that, that you can show yourself in a certain light and be like super proud of that. That's very empowering. To have body confidence is an amazing, amazing thing. That's another issue with female identifying society in general, is that media paints some very, very high bars that a lot of us cannot reach, right? So
no, that's such a great point to bring up, because I am friends with a lot of women on, a lot of beer accounts that they're certified cicerones. They are very well respected in the industry. Me personally, I get comments on my IG all the time. I'm showing cleavage right now. It's just the way I look in shirts. I could have cleavage in a turtleneck. It happens. But you do kind of open yourself up to, criticism. There's a lot of men on there who don't think you deserve your space because, you're just a chick posting a picture with a beer and you've got cleavage. Sometimes it's just how we look in our clothes, but also, you do have those other accounts where it is pretty much just like someone's hired a model to just put like a couple little beer caps on their nips and, talk about Pliny the Elder. It happens. So I think that is a really good point to bring up. I think it's about knowing which accounts you're following, why you're following them, the beers that they talk about. Do they stand by what they are actually posting, and what is their message of their page? So that's my personal opinion, just to throw that in, because there are a lot of women out there who are doing amazing things in the beer industry and who get a lot of flack because, oh my God, they posted a picture by a pool in a bikini. No. So it's more about like, what is their overall message? And I mean, that's kind of my opinion. What do y'all think about it?
I was gonna jump in there and say that it's all about branding. Like our rhythm brand is about music. It's about life. It's about movement. It's about finding your rhythm, whatever it is. And so, but again, I'm a professional salsa dancer, so you might see me one day on my IG in a post in a salsa dress with stilettos on, holding a beer, and the skirt's not going to be down to my ankles. But does that change who we are as a brand or as a company? No, it's about life. It's about finding new rhythms. It's about tapping into your inner, whoever you are, whatever you're trying to find. And so I think however you can empower yourself through what you're doing, but more importantly, like if you stand by that, then that's what it's all about. We have a clear message for our brand, but again, it's like we're not afraid. Well, I'm not afraid to, again, as an artist, to be thinking completely outside of the box, because that's just what life is about. It's finding different places and spaces. And so whatever you do, just always be comfortable in that. And
I,
so
yeah, I definitely agree.
you can find
Definitely agree
beauty
with that
anywhere.
too. Yeah. Yeah, because I was like, I follow quite a few people on accounts, and I think I'm like very like flexible with it. But I think you can almost weed out who are true beer drinkers and like who are almost like just there to post to try to get likes.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't knock anybody because like I'm all for body confidence because there's skinnier women, there's heavier set women that all do the same thing. And I'm like, yo, I wish I had a piece of that confidence that they all have. But like, I mean, just like a fraction, you will probably not get a shoulder from me ever. Like, and if you do, just make sure you comment and like it if y'all get a shoulder this summer. But I'm just saying, like, I love it. But again, like, it's just like, again, like, then you have, like you said, those creepers or those weird people that may just say like, or they have those negative comments, like, and they may not think that these women know about beer. And again, like you said, those women could be Cicerone level, like, certified and things like that, but they're not seeing that. They may not be scrolling through like all their pics or like reading their bios or and things like that. So it could be like a good and a positive, but I think like I just like as my scrolling and my preferences and the things that I like or the people that I follow, I can see if they have a true appreciation for beer or they're just truly there for the likes. And so, but yeah, like it is definitely like that's definitely like a hard subject. But it's again like I don't knock it, especially if there are women that are doing certain things to promote your confidence in drinking and beer. Because I have a friend who does a mukbang, who eats food for a living on social media, but she always puts references. If you know anyone who has an eating disorder, these are some hotlines that you can talk to. So it's like I think people should also push certain messages like that, because people people need to see that there is definitely, whether you're clothed or unclothed, there's a second sexiness to me to women drinking craft beer. Like it is
It's
what
true.
it is what it is. Like we are sexy, and then it's even
Yeah.
sexier when you can talk the talk. If you can tell me the difference between a New England style IPA and a West Coast style IPA, I'm engaged. We're all engaged because that's bringing it up to a different level. You're not just there for the looks or the likes. You're there for the education and the knowledge and the appreciation of the craft. So.
Wow. No, that's such a great point to bring up, because it is like, who's there for likes, who's there, but also like opening yourself up to trolls and creeps, because, oh my gosh, I know some days I will post a picture and I'm like, oh, that was a little low cut of a top, but oh, well, I really liked the beer and it was good lighting. And then all of a sudden I get followed. If I get followed by a Jeff, a Mark, a Chad, and then they have like, especially if they have a Bible verse in there, if they say that they're like a dad and then their profile pictures with their kids and they have a Bible verse in their bio, I am almost definitely getting a blurred out picture in my DMs. And for y'all and that means it's a dick pic. Ugh,
Yeah.
it's so gross. So it's not the best, but and I don't actually think that those people are really in the beer scene. I feel like those are people who probably like, think that Blue Moon is craft, which no hate to Blue Moon. Blue Moon's fine. But it's like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like those people aren't really in the actual beer scene, but either way, you're opening yourself up to hate, which, you can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's so many amazing points to bring up with that. Cause that's, just making sure that who you're following, whether it's in beer or music or anything, that they're actually taking steps to help the community versus just, post for likes. I think that's a really good point to bring up, Hannah. Thank you. And then, so, oh, I'm sorry, Elisa.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it's in anything in life, you want to surround yourself with positivity. You want to surround yourself with your neighbor to the left, your neighbor to the right. You want to be going towards the same place. So I think it's the same thing in the industry. I think we all have gotten a taste of who out there is really for the culture, for the community, and then you can weed those, that are not. And so I'm just, excited to have that kind of like that discernment in craft beer now. So yeah, it's just who you're rocking with. It's just, keep that positivity and people that want to see you grow and advance. And I think that's key.
I think that's really cool. That one of my favorite quotes that reminds me of what you just said is, if your circle doesn't lift you up, it's time for a new circle. So, I mean, I think that all of us do such a good job of lifting each other up. And especially when we see other women in craft beer, it's great. And kind of on that subject about women in craft beer, sometimes, it's great to be surrounded right now by so many confident women. And I feel like we're all really strong in what we do, and we've come a long way in our careers. And there's a lot of women who are a little more shy or a little bit soft-spoken. And the craft beer industry can be very intimidating. You walk into, I know New Realm because I'm right down the street, but the one in Atlanta, I mean, first time I walked in there, I was like, whoa, this place is huge. And it is intimidating when you're first getting involved. So what are some ways that you all try to make women around you that aren't familiar with craft beer, how do you make it less intimidating for them? Jen, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I would love to. I like to think that I try to do as much as I can in this specific arena with craft beer. One of the things I do at New Realm is our internal education. And one of the biggest things that I talk about is you need to, when you're talking to the customer, beer should be fun. It should be approachable. You need to be respectful. You need to, be engaging in a conversation with people. And, when I say things like that, I specifically have underrepresented people in mind, because so many times you hear, if somebody really likes craft beer, they can usually tell you about that one experience they had with a bartender who walked them through a bunch of different styles or something like that. If they've had a bad experience, it's usually because somebody, made assumptions about them or shut them down. So encouraging everybody to make sure that they're being respectful and, engaging with the customer is a very big part of the trainings I do internally. Externally, a big thing that I do is just tell women to go for it. And I've had people reach out to say, hey, like, there's this job that I'm interested in, and I do it. Women will, it's whatever the statistic is, like, only apply if they feel like they meet 60 or 100% of the qualifications, but men apply if they meet like 60%. And if I waited until I had 100% of the qualifications for a job, I wouldn't have had my first job in the beer industry. I wouldn't have this job in the beer industry. And a lot of times just hearing that kind of encouragement is what a lot of women need to hear. And the same thing with, going through the Cicerone program or beer judging, just hearing, having that someone who looks like you tell you, I started here, I've done it this way, you can do it too, is, knowing that experience is shared, solidarity is not something that I'm not a special case, right? Anybody can do.
You are special.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But that access is available to everyone. And, one of the things that I try to do, I feel like sometimes I tend to like overload people when they ask for resources, because I'm like, give me your email address. I'm going to send you this zip file. I want all of these things. But, there's all sorts of resources out there, all kinds of access for women wanting to get in the beer industry. But if you don't know where to start looking, then you don't know. So that's one thing that I definitely do, through email, Instagram. Anytime somebody reaches out to me, I'm just like, okay, get ready for the avalanche. I'm going to send you like everything you need. And I'm also going to follow up with you. And I'm going to tell you that you need to apply for that job. I'm going to ask when you've applied for that job. And, I'm going to be there to like lift you up and push you forward the entire time.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Jen, so many amazing points that you just made. And circling back to one of them that you said that really stuck out. Don't wait until you're perfect. None of us are perfect. None of us were perfect when we started. I know when I started Bitch Beer podcast, I'd never done a podcast before. I'd only listened to podcasts, and now here we are in year 3, and I still kind of don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm still going for it. I'll have people come up to me all the time being like, hey, the sound was weird on this episode. And I'm like, yeah, it was. Sorry. And then I'll go back and fix
That's
it.
weird.
So thank you for bringing that up. I think that is something that prevents so many women from going into things because they think that they have to be perfect. So I really appreciate you bringing that up because you don't have to be perfect and just emphasizing that. So thank you so much. That's really an awesome point. Excuse me. And Julie, go ahead and go next for same point. So what are some ways that that we can kind of help women feel less intimidated by craft beer and the industry?
Okay, first I'd be remiss if I didn't say hi to Dr. J, who's tuning in here.
I know. That's why I just got so distracted. I got so excited. I was like, oh my God.
I'm always distracted by Dr. J.
Me too. I like plugged up my question.
And so, no, I think, I actually get this question a lot. And the first thing I tell people is don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. Every conversation matters. So just talk to everybody. Like, just talk to everybody. You never know who you're talking to. I actually learned that from bartending. And it's helped me with networking. It's helped me with education, which is my next point, is just read. Read everything. You've got this thing called Google. Just go for it. Like, just read everything you can get your hands on. And the other thing is that try to give what you want to get. Think about what you want to get. I try to tell myself that all the time and think about it like, for example, I love learning from Dr. J, right? So like, I want to gain education from her. So in return, like, I don't expect to pick her brain, right? This is why I pay for her programs. Like, for, not for free. So like, if you're willing to, give that to get something, just remember that all the time. And then if you do want to pick somebody's brain, what can you give to them in return? Like if you want to have a coffee talk with somebody and just talk about like, how'd you get in the industry? How'd you discover Cicerone? How the hell do you do sensory training? Ugh. Like, think about what you could give to them. Like, I was on your website and there's some broken links, but I'm really good with website design. Can I help you with that? Like, just like, it's a give and take. Oh, Jay's so sweet. And so it's something to remember all the time. Like, just the more conversations that you can have, the more everybody grows, and the more that, what is it? A rising tide lifts all boats. Is that the saying? And it really is true. So get out there, have conversations, talk to people, learn from experts. Don't copy what they're doing, but get inspired by what they're doing. And I think we'll just continue to flourish, no matter how shy you are.
Definitely. Yeah, that's like
awesome.
my experience. Yeah, my experience kind of with that is kind of almost like on the opposite end. It's not more of like women asking me questions about working in the industry. It's more questions about, hey, what kind of beer should I buy? Or where should I start? And it's with me, I'm just like, again, it's almost like you said, you take it back to your roots. If you're a bartender or something, it's going back to like education. It's like, hey, what do you like to drink in general? Or what don't you like about beer that you tried? And then I'm always like pushing, again, I push everything local, but I'm a huge supporter of not just like breweries, because sometimes they can be like almost intimidating or overwhelming, but more of the bottle shops. Like the bottle shops that we have that have tap rooms, you have so many different varieties of things that you can get. Mm-hmm. And I push that because majority of the time, and my friend, she's actually on here. It's Sarah who's made some comments, but Sarah Meets Beer on Instagram. She helped me change my palate, because even as a brewer, I was anti-IPAs, I was anti-sours, I was like straight like lagers, Hefeweizens, things like that. But just, she works at a bottle shop, and going in there, she's like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And so I've been going in there thinking I'm going to buy like 1 or 2 beers, and I'm leaving out with like a $50-$60 tab because, it's not only like she's just knowledgeable, and I'm just like, just how you explain that makes me want to try it, even if I don't like it or anything like that. So that's a lot of things that people have come to me about, because they're just like, they want to expand their palate. And I'm like, yes, we need more women in beer. We need more, like, Black women in beer or whatever. Let's do this. Check out this bottle shop or go to this brewery, or even like our grocery stores. Now that you can get mixed 6-packs, I'm like, hey, go to the grocery store and just try possibly these styles. I was like, I will never lead somebody off with like a West Coast style IPA, because I don't want to scare them from beer in general. But it's just like, yeah, maybe try a lager, a pilsner, a fruited sour, a hefeweizen. So those are like more the questions that I've received on like my end. More or less people just wanting to be involved on an enthusiast level for craft beer. So
I love that. It's so true though, because like getting a mixed 6, like the way people explain things to me, because there's been plenty of times I've gone over to like a couple of my favorite bottle shops, and the way they explain it, I'm like, oh, that sounds dope. And I get it home and I'm like, nope, but it's still okay. I don't blame them. It's, I still tried it. And then, Lynn made a funny comment that I wanted to say out loud. We should all walk around with the confidence of an average man. Can you imagine? I feel like in this group, we don't have that problem, but I feel like sometimes just think about being an average man. And then Elisa, talk to us from your perspective.
Education and knowledge really is the key, because before we made one drop of beer, it was all about the resources and the research. But I find, like, actually pre-pandemic, going to a lot of the beer festivals, and people will come up in the line and we pour the beer and we tell them about the story, and then they go, can I talk to you for a second? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, how can we get into this? This is so fascinating. And when you ever tell someone, can you come and join me for a brew day? They go, I can actually come with you on a brew day. You will make somebody's entire life. I have found that, and I have cleared it with my contract brewers, but it's something about the tanks and the bright tanks and fermentation and the mashings and the milling that is just so incredibly exciting. It's the chemistry of it. There's a science behind it. So I give back and I pay forward by doing a couple of things, sitting down with especially young women who will say, I want to go into wine, or I want to go into the craft beer industry, but I don't even know where to start. And it starts with me taking them out to lunch and explaining to them what I had to do to get into the industry. And then you got to show them all, tell them all the good points, but then you got to show them, listen, this is hard work. You've got to, this is, I'm up sometimes at like 5:30 a.m. and I'm, checking accounts and putting a post on Twitter that I forgot to post like at 9 o'clock, and I'm up till 2 a.m. So they've got to see every single facet of what makes this such an incredible industry. But yeah, I do lunches. I make sure I am available. My time is available to if anybody wants to dive into the craft beer industry, and then invite them to a brew day. And I will tell you, that has gotten the conversations going like you wouldn't believe. So education and motivation in this industry are key. And there's, people that are joining us in the chats that have been so such a motivating factor, that I think we can all say, when we had doubts about being in this industry, we can call our sisters in beer and say, hey, I don't know if I'm in the right industry. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure this out. But I just think it's the dialogue has been incredible. But yeah, pay it forward to the next one. That's how we diversify and open up this industry.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that is so true. There's so many amazing points about education, and just like you in your position, taking that extra time, going that extra step to make somebody feel like they can be in this space and they belong in that space. So thank you so much. That's incredible.
Definitely.
And Oh, I love it. And oh, Bree, she's talking about Beer Girl in Hapeville. Oh my gosh, I love Beer Girl in Hapeville. That's one of my favorite bottle shops. And Dr. J herself, she says she has a comment here that I saw earlier. Last year, I had a reckoning with this quote: "Stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces you have outgrown." I don't know if I'm right, but I feel like this really applies to women. Oh, that is so true. That is so true. I absolutely love, love, love that quote. Thank you all so much for being here. We have so many amazing people. We have Bree, Amina, Mac Brewing, Mickey. I just saw Will from Conzo come in here. Gosh, we have so many amazing people in this chat and supporting. Thank you all so much for being here. This has been an amazing panel. We'll just go around one more time, starting with Jen. How can we keep in touch with you, Jen?
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Under the Genfluence. I also have a website, underthegenfluence.beer. I'm currently doing a free beer judge training for women. If you go to underthegenfluence.beer, you can sign up for that as well, aimed at getting more women at beer judging tables. I'm frequently the only one. So that is underthegenfluence.beer.
I'm definitely going to be taking that because I have some stuff coming up and I need your insight. And also your podcast too. How do we find your podcast?
So my podcast is False Bottom Girls. I co-host it with fellow Advanced Cicerone, Rachel Hudson. She owns Pilot Brewery up in Charlotte. You can find us on Stitcher, Apple, all of the places where podcasts exist. That's where you can find us. And we also have a website, falsebottomgirls.com.
Awesome. Good deal. We'll have to collab with Bitch Beer. That'd be so much fun.
Yes.
And then Julie, how do we keep in touch with you?
Hey, so yeah, I realized from the beginning, I never even told you the name of my company. So I run a business called Not Your Hobby Marketing Solutions. I tell people if they have customers, they have a business and not a home brewing hobby. So I teach them how to treat it as such. So you can find me at notyourhobbymarketing.com. I'm all over social media, mainly Facebook and Instagram at Not Your Hobby Marketing. I'm on Twitter at Not Your Hobby MS. Whoever took my handle, I'm going to come after you for making me use a different handle. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I have tons and tons and tons of free business resources on my website. I'm also a beer writer, so I send out a lot of emails that teach a lot of things about sales, marketing, and distribution. So please sign up for my email list. There's some curse words in there and some funny stories. I'm also a sci-fi fan, so it's kind of nerdy too. But but I would love for people to get in there. And just a little shameless plug for myself. I do now have a very low cost group coaching program. So if you think that you can't afford business consulting, you are totally wrong. And I would invite you to check out my mastermind program because it's very accessible to everybody. So thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. And then Hannah, how do we keep in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram. Instagram is Dope the Brand on Instagram. Or you can also check out my website is the same, dopethebrand.com. And I'm excited to be on this panel. I wasn't following some of you all, but I'm definitely following you all now. And this is just amazing. I just love the conversation. Wish we had a few more minutes to talk more. So
I will be circling
Thank
back
you.
with all of y'all. This is why I'm so excited about this panel because I basically just lined up my next 5 episodes. So,
Yes.
And last but definitely not least, Elisa, please, how do we keep in touch with you?
Yes, find us on IG, Rhythm Brewing Co. And that's RHYTHM. I found out that is the hardest word to spell in the English dictionary. Okay.
It is
really Rhythm Brewing Co. Also, Facebook, Twitter, and you can also find me Lady Lager 1. So I'm also known as Lady Lager on IG. And I just launched a women in beverage on Clubhouse. And so I know that I'll be having Jen, Atlanta Beer Boutique. She'll be moderating some stuff with me, and hopefully Dr. J and all of you wonderful ladies can come over and jump on and moderate one of our panels. So we will be launching that very soon. And I also host the Talk Sip, and that's local here in Connecticut every Thursday at 2 p.m. It's a radio show. But yeah, just find me. And everybody's getting a follow. I think I'm following everybody, but if not, everybody's definitely going to get a follow. And thank you so much for hosting this. This was amazing and awesome. And keep doing what all of you are doing in the industry.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Alyssa, I want to tell you, I tried your porter the other day and it was amazing. So
Oh, I'm so jealous.
you may have to change that handle from Lady Lager to Lady Beer or something. I don't know. Because the porter was amazing. So
I'm down. Thank you. I'm down for it. Yes, exactly. I ventured out into porter, so I'm being pulled over here. So thank you. Yes.
Awesome. Amazing job, everyone. This was such a huge honor to even be included with you all. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you again to Jen Price and to Chanel for setting this conference up. I'm so grateful. And then, yeah, this is incredible. This was awesome. I'll go ahead and leave it over to Chanel to do the technical things to get us on out of here. So I'd like to stay on and get everyone's info again, though. Awesome.
all right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.